What's up, fam? Extraordinary Life with Elijah. You're watching this video on Sunday, May 4th, 2025 at 10:50 a.m. MST. So before I go on any further, you know I've got to say it, but may the 4th be with you. Can't ever resist a good dad joke. But this week, chatting about the reality of building a legacy, an inheritance for people in the future through testimony, and its correlation to the idea of what it means to be a slave of all. What does that mean? And as I've been thinking about it more and more, I've been really blessed as I've been going back and watching my own videos. Been wanting to get back in here to do an episode by the river. Just haven't been proactive enough to do it, but sure am glad I am now. It's gorgeous. Hopefully the water is not too noisy. Oh, it's so beautiful back in here. I love the place that I live. It's so beautiful. As I've been coming into the middle of November, I've been thinking about the element that I'm approaching halfway through this 3.5-year journey with God and extraordinary life with Elijah. And as I consider that, I've been going back through and listening to all of the videos that I've produced thus far, all of the testimonies of what God has been doing. And I've been so encouraged by the testimonies of my videos. I think I've been invigorated in a new way that in merging forward, I think as a get away from first love, just going back and seeing my first videos in that era of time where the Lord was just ripping my life up, pouring out his heart and his grace in such ways that I was praying for grace to be able to stand up under the grace and the glory that God was layering on my life. It's so beautiful to be reminded of that first love, that to consider the height from which I have fallen currently, that in past months and weeks as I've made these videos and I've considered my heart before the Lord, that the process had lost that sense of excitement and joy, and just the day-to-day grind of trying to bust these videos out was becoming very weighty. But as I went back and looked at testimony, that I engaged my own testimonies, that my heart was reinvigorated, given passion to overcome and to be able to endure a greater weight of suffering. Unfortunately, as is often the case with inheritance, a parent generation who grows wealth for their children and leaves it to them as a legacy, oftentimes there's a misunderstanding over what the purpose of inheritance is for. That as people receive inheritance from their parents who have worked very hard to amass wealth for their children, there can be a mentality that says that inheritance is just for sitting by the poolside, sipping suds, and living off the opulence of what your parents created. That's so unfortunate, because it couldn't be any further from the truth than what inheritance is for. In the purpose of inheritance, rightly passed along to children who have the heart of their father, heart of their grandfathers, heart of their grandmothers and mothers, that pass along inheritance to them. The purpose of inheritance is to be able to bear up under a greater expression of suffering. Talked about a lot back in 2021. I was starting my own business, and my goodness, starting businesses can be a stressful adventure. There's so much excitement. I was so passionate to see the visions that God had given me brought into fruition and to live those out with him. It was so exciting. And at the same time, was so stressful. There was so many things that I gave up, including sleep sometimes and taking time to just go and relax and spend time by myself because I needed to get the business spun up. A lot much prayer and pursuing the Lord's heart. As I built that business and forwent resources, building into a legacy and inheritance for my children, the goal in handing my children an increased in inheritance and legacy is to be able to empower them to step out further in vision and to take on sufferings that were way beyond my ability to undertake in the past. I hope that's making sense to you, that in pursuing God, that it says that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope. As I move out in faith with God to pursue the things that He's given me, and I take that risk with Him, there is a great deal of suffering involved in that process. But I'm going at it with the resources that God's given me and seeing those things brought to pass. When I pass along the inheritance and the legacy to my children that's going to build, the goal is to be able to have them take the resources that I multiplied and use those resources and inheritance to take on more suffering, more than what I could bear at this point in time. I think the cool part about this lesson that I'm learning, though, is that I'm getting to learn it firsthand. And by the way, I'm hoping this makes sense to you. As I go back and I engage the testimony that I built, the inheritance and testimony that I started recording back in February of 2020, as I go back and I engage those testimonies that I built with the Lord, I built that inheritance in testimony for myself, and that as I go back and I engage that inheritance, it's empowering me, it's giving me strength and resources to be encouraged in the suffering that I have now that is greater than what I knew then. Then I was excited and it was awesome and I was in love and God is doing things and I am still in love and I'm still excited, and as I move forward there's increased responsibility and suffering in living out of the vision that God has given me. So as I've gone back, engaged the inheritance and testimony that I built for myself, that inheritance is a resource that's empowering me to engage suffering with more peace, with more perseverance, with more endurance, in a more sustainable way. And so that's where this thought is then coming from, in understanding that inheritance is a gift given to one's children that helps empower them to bear up under greater suffering in increased vision. I've never thought of inheritance that way. I think the majority of what we see is that people engage inheritance as saying, gee, thanks dad, thanks mom, thanks for giving me all these resources, and now I don't have to have as much suffering as you do, and I can live a life of pleasure and ease, just sitting by the pool working on my tan and soaking up the sun rays. Come on by. Yeah, no worries. So I think as God bears this testimony in me, that I have this experiential encounter with Him of the power of inheritance empowering me to engage greater suffering. This is such an immature idea. I'm working it out and repeating myself over and over. Stick with me. It's helping me to understand more what it is that I am building, that I'm not going to a place where I'm investing the talent that God has given me so that I can just take a break and rest and not have to work anymore. That as I invest the talent that God's given me, I build an inheritance, I see it multiplied, I get rewarded with increased responsibility, increased suffering. But then not only do I have increased responsibility and increased suffering, I also have increased resources to deal with them. I hope that can be an encouragement to you, fam, that as you build a testimony of inheritance with the Lord, that as you push forward and you endure, you persevere in the things that God has given you to do, the talents, the grace that He's placed on your life, that as you press forward in those and you multiply the resources and you hand it along to a future generation, to realize that the inheritance that you're building, the legacy and the momentum, is not to be able to just sit by and have a life of ease, but to press further and further into growth, into risk, into suffering, such that more and more inheritance is built in and through you to the glory of our Father, showing yourself to be His disciple and participating in the fullness of joy in the Father's person and presence. If you subscribe to what I am doing, then type down in the comments what it is that I'm doing, because I feel like I just processed this with you for like 12, 15 minutes. Raw and unedited. Hit the button, hit it, and then get it after telling me what it was that you subscribed to. Hit the bell as well so you get notified with the new content. And if you loved this video, you didn't just like it, hit the thumbs down button. I pray blessings on our lives together. I love you guys lots, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. I was distracting myself enough that I was forgetting what it is that I actually say. I love this creek. I just don't know how to get down at a lower level so that you can see it more without sitting in the mud and getting my rump all dirty. Check this branch out. I don't know if this is going to be a good idea or not. Might try to sit on it. And have, not sure what I'm seeing. Have the water in the background. We'll see how that works out. Kind of. A little spongy. Bear with while I set up my tripod. I am loving my new equipment, by the way. Absolutely amazing, but I'll be right back. There we go. Not bad. We'll see how it works out. It's kind of a little precarious, but whatevs. Oh man. Coming up on a half year, halfway. Man. Thinking about so many things. Goodness. I feel like I'm back in that space where I was at the beginning. So many things run through my mind, it's hard to think. Always think of people that I love, though. What's up, fam? Extraordinary Life with Elijah. And this week, Jim is my extra, and I am the ordinary.